Hello and welcome to the Today's Homeowner Weekly Podcast. We're here to help you with the challenges we all face as homeowners. I'm Danny Lifford.
And I'm Joe Truini. And each week, Danny and I are here on the podcast to answer any and all home improvement questions.
And we want to hear from you. Send us your questions or comments at todayshomeowner.com/podcast.
Okay, Danny, let's get started.
Today's Homeowner Podcast is brought to you by the Home Depot. How doers get more done. This week, like every week, we try to tackle a few common issues around the home, like settling. That can be very disturbing. If you think your house is settling, we'll give you some telltale signs if it's a serious problem or one that just needs some real minor work. Also, working with vinyl siding can be a little bit challenging. We have some tips on that. And also, it's finally spring, and we're going to announce to you our spring edition of our 4 Seasons of Home Ownership. And have you ever heard of an inside outhouse? Well, we found one, and we're going to talk about that. Kind of a little unusual subject, but you'll be interested in the historic significance of that. Joe, what about a simple solution for us?
Well, first of all, isn't an indoor outhouse an in-house?
I know.
Otherwise, it's no longer officially an outhouse, I don't think.
I know. That's a tricky one there.
Yeah. Either way, if you have an outhouse indoors, you might want to examine that situation, and we're going to discuss that coming up. But for the simple solution, I've got a non-toxic oven cleaner you can make from some ingredients you probably have in your house right now.
Well, I'm interested in that because, boy, those things can be so obnoxious, your traditional oven cleaners. Well, as always, we got plenty to do, so let's get started. You can call us anytime, 800-946-4420, or you can send us an email. We're going to get to a lot of those in just a bit. todayshomeowner.com/ask. Right now, let's check in with Paul and see if we can help him out on a possibly settling issue. Paul, welcome to the show, and tell us all about this door situation.
Well, we moved into a house a couple of years ago, and the entry doorway we discovered during the cold weather this winter had a gap down at the lower left side. If you're inside and you're opening doors, down at the lower left-hand side on the open side. And when I started looking at it, I discovered that the jamb from about 2.5 feet up was kind of slanting in toward the wall rather than being plumb, and
Right.
that caused the gap.
Well, so you didn't notice this. How long have you been in the house now?
About 3 years. I didn't really notice it before. I mean, we're up here in northern Alabama, and we really haven't had very severe winters or anything until this year, and so that's when we really discovered it.
Well, I'll tell you this, it's amazing how much weather can affect a house. We talk about the expansion and contraction all of the time, and a door can really do a lot of shrinking. And, you think about what happens on most doors is they're only sealed on 4 sides, not all 6 sides. The 5th and 6th side, of course, being the top and bottom. And what that is it's just open, porous grain that allows that moisture to get in, and that can widen a door, shrink a door during the winter time. Usually it's shrinking it a little bit. So I would think on this that you may want to wait just a little bit until you get maybe another month or so and then relook at it. But I think all you're really going to have to do here is work with your hinges. You can loosen the hinges. You can put shims behind, or even metal washers are great to put behind hinges to kind of move them and offset them a little bit. And usually it's just a little finesse that's necessary in order to center that door back in that frame. You can also adjust it, from top to bottom, and being able to let it lean in more at the top than the bottom in order to get that good seal. But most of the time you can do that little bit of tweaking on that in order to tighten that jam up like it should be without having to actually remove the jam and the whole door unit and reset it. Usually that'll take care of it.
Okay. Well, I'll give her a try. I'll wait for a month or so to warm it up and then do it then.
All right. That sounds great, Paul. Glad we were able to help you, and thanks for being a part of the show.
Okay.
All right, great. Yeah, so many times, Joe, those little door adjustments throughout, it can be so aggravating. We get calls about doors like ghost doors that
Right.
won't stay open, won't stay closed.
Right.
And so many times, if you just kind of, go up to a door and just really look at it closely, use your level to try to figure it out, you can usually pinpoint where the problem is. And many times it is, as I mentioned, just a little adjustment of hinges to get that back right in the middle of that frame.
Yeah, that was a bit of an unusual problem that Paul had, in that the door was plumb and most of the jamb was plumb, but the last 2 feet were angled out.
Yeah, that is
I'm
unusual.
not even sure how that's ever happened. Ordinarily, the jam's perfectly straight. It might not be plumb, meaning
Right.
perfectly vertical. It might be tilted in or out or something. But so I wonder if it's the jam itself. Maybe you can just shim behind the bottom of that jam and force it back out. Straighten it out. But that would close the gap, because you start messing with the door. It's always hard to get a door to fit a jam that's not square or plumb or level or whatever. So because the door is square.
Right, exactly. Tom is on the line. What can we help you with? I understand you're pondering a little project out there. Tell us all about it.
Well, a friend of mine asked me if I would put a gable vent in for him, and I did that once years ago on my place, and I just wondered if I can get my vent and mark it. It's on a vinyl siding.
Uh-huh.
I wondered if I can mark it on the siding and then just cut it out without removing the siding, and I thought I'd maybe cut the siding with tin snip, so that if instead of the circular saw, in case I would crack it, and then cut through the OSB and insulation board, and if I can fit the back half of the vent in around that siding, it would save me having to take the siding down and measure and cut.
I got you. Yeah. Well, I have done that very thing before. If you have enough room now, if you're putting a gable vent up and you're up close to the soffit, it gives you a little less flexibility in that siding to be able to work with it.
Okay.
But I've done exactly what you're talking about. Of course, when you have that vinyl siding, traditionally when it butts up to anything, you have a little channel molding that goes around it. But which in one way that'll help you because it gives you a little bit more margin there to play with. But to carefully mark that and to cut out and I kind of agree with you, if you use some large tin snips, might be safer than chipping it away with a circular saw. And you get it cut a nice even margin around it. Then of course taking your reciprocating saw and cut out the rest of it, and you want to make sure there's no wires back there or anything that you're going to run into.
I put my head up the inside.
Good. And then you would be able to put the vent in, but you'll need to get that channel to work it around there. Then you can just play with that a little bit. Might even use a little construction adhesive or window sealant to help adhere all of that, and of course to seal it up to keep the moisture out. But I think you would be very successful. Now, if you got into it and you saw that you just couldn't get that vent in, then you can go to the result to having to remove a few of the pieces of siding, maybe not all of it.
It'd only be 2 or 3 sections because they're right up at the peak anyway.
Yeah, So I think you'll be in good shape on that. And what a good neighbor you are to help out a neighbor on a project like that.
Yeah, well, I kind of like to do things on my own if I can do it, and we'll resource people like you and others to give me a few hints if I'm not real sure. Sometimes I figure it out in my head, and then later on I find out my head wasn't quite right. I just go back and do something else. So.
We've all been there, so we understand completely on it. And I assume you're probably going to have to wait for a warmer day than probably what you're experiencing now, huh?
Well, we're getting in the 60s here in Michigan now. So
nice. Wow.
Yeah.
There you go. Heat wave. You got a regular heat wave going there.
Yeah, getting spring fever.
Good. Well, Tom, best of luck on that. Be careful on that ladder more than anything. And if we can help you on anything else, just let us know.
I will. And thank you very much.
Okay, our pleasure. Thanks, Tom. Now, over the years, we've told you about our 4 seasons of home ownership. Now, what this is we started hearing so many homeowners being frustrated about, what do I do? I want to make sure I want to do the right thing in my home, but I can't find a list that makes sense to kind of telling me what I need to do. So Joe and I sat down and started thinking about it, and the essential things that we recommend from today's homeowner that you should do to your home. We came up with 40 of them. Wow, that's a long list. But when you break it down into 4 different lists that coincides with the start of each season, it makes it a little more manageable. And we want to share with you our spring checklist right now. This is available right now at today'shomeowner.com/4 4 seasons. So we have this divided into 3 different groups. So one is the top 10 must-do. So if you're going to do anything to your house, this is what you need to do. And this sounds like a long, long list, but when you break it all down, it really is about 8 to 9 hours worth of time that it'll take you. You don't have to do it all in one day. And you're only going to spend about $120, and it starts with having your AC and heating system serviced by a professional. You know, if you haven't done that in the past year, make sure you do that. It's going to ensure that when you really start relying on that air conditioner, that it's going to be working efficiently and it's going to be safe. Another thing that you can do yourself, Joe, and we know how important it is, even though you have to be careful, is making sure you get to that AC condenser unit outside and do a little cleanup there.
Yeah, exactly. Those AC condenser units have vents on them. On the outside housing, it's full of vents. Well, those vents are there for a reason. It's to let air in. And so you don't want to be plugging up those vents with leaves and debris and branches and litter and who knows what else. And by the way, these first 2, if you clear the leaves and debris and get that condenser nice and clean, that's one less thing for the professional to do when he comes out. So you won't have to charge you for that. And also, if you want, and we've mentioned this in the past, if you want to get the AC guy out there for spring, you really should have called them by now because they're going to start getting backed up. So if you haven't already, call them immediately, but it's usually better to call them in the winter and schedule something for the spring before their schedule gets too crowded.
That's right. A third thing on the list there is cleaning all of your rain gutters and downspouts and making any repairs if needed. Now, this is on almost every one of our lists because you do need to maintain your gutters fairly regularly, but definitely during this time of the year when the winter has put a lot of that debris in it. Another one is cleaning and repair the window screens and making sure you clean the tracks and lubricate that well while you're going along. And, Joe, that clothes dryer, nobody cleans the lint off their clothes dryer, but they should.
Right, and we're not talking about the lint trap that's in the top of the dryer. That you have to do every single time you use a dryer. We're talking about what happens to all that lint that doesn't get trapped, right? It gets exhausted out the house. It better be getting exhausted out the house because that's the whole point of those vents. But so what you do is disconnect it and from the back of the dryer and clean it out. And there's lots of ways to do it. You can disassemble it and, run the vacuum up and down. And I actually bought a long vent brush. It's basically just a thin fiberglass shaft. It's about 6 feet long with a ball brush on the end, and I hook up to my drill and just run it in and out, and it reams out the inside of that and loosens up all the dust. And so that's another quick way to get the lint out of your dryer vent.
Very effective, too. Also, lubricate all of the door locks and all of the gate hardware. All of that's very, very good. And get those garden tools sharpened. Very easy to sharpen everything. Inspect that wheelbarrow. Make sure it's ready for all the yard work. Then you're ready to prep all your flower beds and plants so that you're ready to install those. And here's one that's very simple. Won't cost you anything. Is make sure your ceiling fan is operating counterclockwise when you look up at the fan, because that'll provide that cooling effect that you really need during this upcoming time of the year. Again, very simple things. You can go right down to the Home Depot right now and be able to buy all of these things. It's going to cost you less than $120, and what a difference it can make to your home. Maintenance, improving, it's all part of home ownership. We appreciate the Home Depot for working with us on this list. Hey, we want to remind you how you can reach out to us on the Today's Homeowner Hotline, 800-946-4420. That's what Judy did from Minnesota. Judy, welcome to the show, and tell us about this interesting story we're interested to. We like a little history, but we didn't know it was going to this direction, so let us know what's going on.
Well, I bought my house last year, and when I first was here, my house was built in 1907. The house has been beautifully updated, but the garage used to be a small barn. So when we were looking at it with the inspector, we found an outhouse in the garage. Which, it was fine at the time. There was not even a smell or anything. But then I moved in September, and it rained for 3 days. And the odor out there is overpowering when the ground gets damp. And, of course, now it's spring in Minnesota, and everything is melting, and it's getting wet again, and it's starting to smell again, and I have no idea what to do.
Oh, boy. Well, that's certainly a unique situation there. But is the hole still there, the pit?
Yes, it's a one-holer.
Okay, all right.
Judy, it's not over the hole in the ground, though, right? Somebody moved it into the garage?
No, what I was told by my neighbor is that my house was the first one in town where they actually put the outhouse inside the barn. So it was the original indoor plumbing.
Wow.
Okay.
Well, I'll have to say, here's what I would do. You know, we always think about what would you do if it were yours. I think I would take a few pictures just to preserve that part of history, but then I would put that part of history beyond, past you, and I would fill that hole in. And I've always heard, Joe, have you ever heard about, when you have some odors like, maybe an animal under the house or some problem like that, using agricultural lime? Have you heard of that before?
I've not, but I could see how that would absorb, because that's finely ground limestone. I could see how that would absorb some odors. Yeah.
I've heard about that a lot in situations, and I'm not sure, and that's incredibly inexpensive. So I think I would buy a couple bags of agricultural lime, and I would just put it right in there, dump it right into the hole, and that might take care of it. But still, I think about things like, animals falling in it, children falling in it, anything falling in it there, just kind of as a hazard. I would look at filling it up completely, and I think I would use, still put the lime in there, and then use whatever soil that you can get to go ahead and eliminate the whole aspect of that, because I think that's the only way you're going to be able to keep that water from, running in there that's going to produce those smells on and on and on. So pretty amazing that the smell hadn't dissipated by now, though. You know it?
Well, yeah, it's lost its historical significance. Part of it is totally not an issue anymore. Is agricultural lime the same as what I would buy like at the hardware store?
Absolutely. Yes, the same stuff. Sometimes it's in pellets and sometimes it's crushed. Either way is exactly what you would need, and I think that'll solve the problem. And that way, when it gets nice and warm around Minnesota, there you won't have to worry about that little odor running around.
I'm so much appreciate your help. I had no idea what direction to go.
Judy, are you considering saving this outhouse? Or you're just looking to get rid of it?
I think I'm up to the point where I'm good with getting rid of it.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, then I agree with Danny. And is the floor of your garage just dirt still?
No, it's been cemented. Although it's cement.
Okay. Well, I'd fill up that hole and take that outhouse and just chop it up if that's what you need to do, and just get rid of it all.
All right. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Our pleasure. Thanks so much for being with us. Best of luck on that.
Thanks. Bye.
All right.
I don't think we're getting another outhouse question for a while.
Well, they may come flooding in now.
Okay. All right. Well, now that we're experts, give us a call.
Now, I can remember I had my father's brother, good old Uncle Buddy, lived way out in the country, and they had outhouses, and he just was one of those old curmudgeons that refused to have indoor plumbing.
Right. Yeah.
Though he had a wife and 6 kids.
Wow.
And so I remember helping rebuild, and the outhouse was it rained in it. It was just terrible. And I remember as a kid helping him rebuild that thing. And because I can remember the rusty tin, and I can remember trying to nail through that as a kid, and everything. Yeah. And I could just remember the whole aspect of it, and just so thankful that I lived in town with indoor plumbing, and my father finally insisted and put indoor plumbing in the house there, mainly because of the kids and so forth. And he never would use it. Never would. It'd be 20 degrees, and he would not use that indoor porcelain white thing in there at all. So,
well, imagine Judy, whoever had that outhouse. We're talking about Minnesota. Imagine using the outhouse in the middle of the winter.
Oh, man. All right. Well,
that's where the phrase, "I'll hold it till morning" came out.
Wow.
Spring is on its way. Almost time to roll out the green carpet. Start planning now with innovative help from the Home Depot. Use our project calculators to figure how much grass seed you'll need, or just the right amount of mulch. Our online workshops and how-to videos will get you up to speed fast, from outdoor fire pits to planter projects. If you're ready to roll, so are we. Download our mobile app to get started. Bring on spring with help from the Home Depot. How doers get more done.
We're talking about some drywall tips. Rebecca from Pennsylvania says, I'm installing some drywall and would like to know, can I install the sheets vertically, not horizontally? Now, I'm also removing some wood paneling from my bedroom and replacing it with drywall. Is there some way to fasten the drywall without nailing it? I live in a 1973 home. I'm 73 years old, but I think I can do it. Thank you.
Well, there you go.
Well, there you go. We've got someone very ambitious here. First of all, drywall is heavy. I don't know why it's so heavy, but it is certainly a heavy thing to lift and to deal with. But, I remember when I for the first 6 months I was in business, someone wanted me to install some drywall. And to tell you the truth, I hung it vertically. Over the year, because it was 8 foot ceiling. Of course, it's supposed to go up. It worked fine and everything was good, but that's really not the most recommended way of doing it, because I guess to a degree, even drywall has a bit of a grain to it that's better that it crosses over the studs instead of running vertically with it.
Right. You could do it. There's no reason you can't do it vertically. More often than not, it's done horizontally. First of all, it's easier to install because you can put in the lower section and it just sort of rests on the floor. And then when you slide the top sheet in, you just push it up, slide it up the studs, and when it gets above the first sheet, it just snaps in place, sort of rests on top of it, so you're not holding it up all the time. And you're right, I've been buying the light sheetrock, and it's still heavy. I don't know why. Yeah. I don't know what the heavy normal sheetrock must feel like with this. I don't know, maybe I'm getting older and it's getting heavier, but as far as how can you you can fasten it with construction adhesive. Now, I'm not exactly sure what Rebecca is fastening it to. If it's just the studs, you can do that. It's better if it's going over, like she has this paneling up. I might go right over the paneling because
that's what I was thinking. Yeah,
right, because that would give you a surface, a much broader surface to put the adhesive on. And I think Danny uses the term burp, and what that means is you put on the adhesive onto the wall or onto the back of the sheet, probably on the wall. Press the sheetrock to it, the drywall to it. Pull it away like a couple of inches, wait a few seconds, and push it back on. It creates those little strands and makes it really sticky. When you push it on, it will hold. And plus, find a construction adhesive that has that quick tack. They call it quick tack, meaning it grabs quickly. Now, you would have to brace it somehow if you need to, if you find it pulling away. But within 10 minutes or so, or probably less, that'll cure enough to hold it in place. But that would be a way to do it without using any nails or screws.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, some of the construction adhesive. And also, caulking has gotten so specialized. You'll find in the aisles of Home Depot a drywall adhesive. So it's made just for drywall and will adhere very, very well. Time for our best new product segment, brought to you by the Home Depot, how doers get more done. If you've ever been really frustrated because you ran out of ice in the middle of a party, the Bosch 500 series French door refrigerator might be the solution to that situation. It boasts the industry's fastest refrigerator ice maker called the Quick Ice Pro system. And not only does the freshly filtered ice replenish itself quickly, the freezer includes an accessory bin so you can stock up on it before entertaining. The Counter Depth refrigerator has a generous 20.8 cubic feet of storage space and the industry's leading water filter, removing 99.9% of sediments in your water. It even includes a Home Connect feature that lets you monitor and manage your refrigerator from your smartphone so you can adjust the brightness inside or actually receive notifications if anyone leaves the door open. Now, for more information on this Bosch 500 series French door refrigerator, log on to HomeDepot.com. A lot of times projects that you work around your home have real simple solutions to them, and that's what we have for you right now. Joe with a fresh, simple solution.
Well, this is a simple solution, Danny, on how to make an effective non-toxic oven cleaner that has no dangerous chemicals, no noxious fumes, nothing like that. And all you need to do is peel 2 oranges, then add the peels to a jar and fill it with white vinegar. Now you have to let the jar sit for about a week. And you need that time for the acid in the oranges to come out into the vinegar. Then use a funnel and pour the vinegar solution into a plant mister. So pour it out of the jar into a plant mister. And then ordinarily, you can start with the oven door. So you open the oven door so it's so it's flat. Sprinkle baking soda on it, and then spray it with this vinegar solution. Let it sit 20 minutes or so, 30 minutes, depending on how dirty the the door is, the glass on the door, then you just wipe it with a scouring sponge. And this will work on any surface. You can do it on the interior surface, floor of the oven. You want to be careful not to spray too much of the stuff down underneath it. But that's all you need to do. Some oranges, some vinegar, let it marinate for a week or so, and you've got a non-toxic oven cleaner.
Boy, what a great idea, because that is so obnoxious, that spray cleaner. I mean, I'm surprised they even have that on the market. That's some bad stuff. I don't even know how it keeps from not like eating the can from inside and out, you know?
Exactly, right.
But,
and if you have a self-cleaning oven, as most people do, you can do this instead. It's just, if you have this solution, you can do this instead of, turning on the oven. Now, our oven, we have a gas oven. You have to crank it up to like 600 degrees for like an hour.
Yeah.
That's using a lot of gas.
There's got to be some statistics on people that have burned their house down trying to clean their oven, because that's just so extreme on that. It just seems like it would really affect the longevity of a stove by going to that extreme.
Yeah, you'd think so. And it does take an hour or two. In fact, our old stove, we have a new one now. I'm not sure it works with this one. The old one used to lock.
Yeah.
And you couldn't open the door until it went for like an hour or two and it cooled down to like a normal temperature.
Mm-hmm. Now it's time for our podcast question of the week, and we would certainly encourage you to send us a question anytime at todayshomeowner.com/podcast. Debbie asked, what is the best way to get off any of the buildup mold and mildew and hard water off of shower doors and tracks and even the shower floor tiles? You know, Joe, some of those old-fashioned type of doors, shower doors and so forth, will have those deep tracks, and water's going to sit in those deep tracks because even if it has weep holes in it, after a while it just kind of gets clogged up and it just stays moist. Well, when you have that, moisture, as and you have, the heat that comes with a shower, you're going to have mold or mildew at some times. Fortunately, the new shower manufacturers have made them a little more sleek and easier to keep clean and so forth. But what do you suggest to Debbie on probably the best way to keep that from happening?
Yeah, well, you have to clean it off first. And so to remove the mold, there are plenty of mold and mildew products on the market. But if you want to make a homemade solution, mix a 50-50 solution of water and white vinegar, add a couple of teaspoons of baking soda, shake it up, spray it on there, let it sit. You have to let it sit for a while, and scrub it off and spray it again. Use a scouring sponge, and once it's clean, spray it one last time and just let it dry. Don't wash off the vinegar. And then for the hard water deposits, I usually there's a product called Iron Out, which comes in a powder, and you mix it. And there's CLR, which stands for calcium lime rust remover. Or if you want to try something homemade, you can just use straight ammonia or mix lemon juice and vinegar. That might work as well to remove those hard water deposits. But, okay, so now it's clean. Now what? How do you keep it from, well, you've got to try to keep it dry. I don't know how you do that, but like in our shower stall, we always squeegee after every shower. We squeegee the walls and we squeegee the door. And that just removes a lot of that water and moisture. If you have a vent fan, we always say leave that vent fan running long after you're out of the tub or shower or whatever, like at least, what is it, Danny?
Yeah, 15 minutes is probably good.
And now that the warmer weather's coming, open up the windows, try to get it dried out. If you keep it dry, then mold and mildew will not grow, or won't grow as quickly, certainly.
All right. And another thing, I'll tell you, next time you're in the home center, look at the areas that have all of the cleaning brushes, because you'll probably find a brush with a narrow enough head on it that you can get it down in those tracks. If you have the old-fashioned shower tracks, that can help you considerably being able to do that. And also the old Rain-X method.
Oh, yeah.
After you get it clean, you've probably seen Rain-X, which is used on car windshields. We'll use it on your shower door glass. You can just apply it, and it kind of keeps the soap scum from sticking to the glass and slides right off. I'll tell you what, that really does work very well on a car as well as a shower glass. So you might try that as well.
There's a scrub brush that I've been using the last few years that you're not going to find in the cleaning aisle, but you'll find it in the tile aisle, and it's a grout brush. It looks like a toothbrush, like a big beefy toothbrush. The handle's at a little bit of an angle, which is nice. And the head of it looks sort of like a toothbrush, but the bristles are a little longer and it's thicker. It's maybe twice as long and twice as thick as a toothbrush with really stiff bristles. Really stiff bristles, meant for cleaning grout. And that is a great way to scrub any, like the corner of like where the tub meets the wall, something like that. Certainly any door track, whether it's a sliding glass patio door or a shower door. So take a look at, they're called grout brushes. They have a plastic handle and a really stiff bristle brush.
There you go, Debbie. Hope you're able to get all of that old mold and mildew off of your shower door. If you have a question for us, all you have to do is go to today'shomeowner.com/podcast. And again, thank you so much for the great reviews that we're getting each week. We're going to keep working as hard as we can. If you have a suggestion on anything you would like to hear on the Today's Homeowner podcast, again, today'shomeowner.com/podcast. I'm Danny Lipford along with my buddy Joe Truini. Thank you so much for listening to this Today's Homeowner podcast.